Since starting this podcast and really diving into film analysis, I've begun to notice things I never knew were there before. Movies dropping names of their titles. How boring narration can be. And that my taxes are overdue. Shit. If you want to help us notice more stuff, you should go to patreon.com/recesscastproductions. For less than the cost of stuffing your beaver, you can support our show.
Oh, yes.
That's bonus episodes, early access, and exclusive content just for you. Again, that's patreon.com/recesscastproductions. Enjoy the show.
Woke up this morning feeling fine. Had something special on my mind. Last night I met a new girl in the neighborhood. Oh yeah.
Experts say you have a 50-50 chance of disliking this podcast. But I think it's only a realistically a 10% chance of that. Welcome to the After Credits Cast, the only film podcast of a perfect record of solved cases. 1 for 1. Early retirement, going out on top. I'm your host, Detective AJ Waseska. Is my partner over here, Ryan Metters.
I've got my foot caught in a bear trap. I'm sorry.
Yep, we'll get that out in a minute. And we're joined by our top suspect, Chaz Mockimer.
Why am I the suspect? What did I do?
Well, listen, if I had made Ryan the suspect, that would have been profiling. I don't think I want to do that.
I was gonna say, is it because I almost said something, but okay. Anyway.
Yeah, that got awkward there for a minute.
Foot in mouth disorder.
If you want to follow us on various platforms, we're on Facebook, Tumblr, and Twitter. You can also email us directly. Ryan, what is that email?
That email is insert gag here at excuse me. No, that is evacstation@gmail.com.
Indeed. You can also find us on various platforms, including YouTube, Peepa, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, iHeartRadio. They're all linked down below. I say them all the time. Hopefully one of these days you'll will click on them. If not, well, boo on you. Boo on you. The intro song this week was I'm Into Something Good by Peter Noon. So,
Well, there you go.
yeah, pulling them from the actual movies because I thought they were very topical, very, very on point. So, yeah, let's continue Spoof Month this week. This week we are getting some laughs with 1988's The Naked Gun, which is a longer title. I don't remember what it is. Something about the police squad. Secret Files of the Police Squad, I think is what it is. Directed by David Zucker. Written by Jerry Zucker, Jim Abrams, and David Zucker. And Pat Proft? I think that's how you pronounce that. The film grossed a total of $78 million, which is about 6.5 times what it cost. A little more expensive to make, but they had a lot more sets involved, so it makes sense. The cast includes a few names you might recognize, including O.J. Simpson, Ray Burke,
Nice.
George Kennedy, Susan Bobine, Ricardo Montalban, which I didn't expect to see in this one, Priscilla Presley, and, of course, Leslie Nielsen.
The one and only.
No,
The myth, the legend.
No awards, 1 nomination, so we're going to skip right over to fun facts. Ryan, what do you got for me?
All right. Well, this movie is a big screen continuation of the cult cop spoof series Police Squad from 1982. The title was changed to avoid confusion with the Police Academy film franchise, which were also co-created by Pat Proft. Now, David Zucker remembers that they were given a list of about 20 potential titles, and they chose The Naked Gun because it promised so much more than it could possibly deliver.
Yes.
Just that rationale makes me laugh. I love it. Next up, Susan Bobine played Mrs. Nordberg, the wife of the character played by O.J. Simpson. And many years later, Bobine would star in The People vs. O.J. Simpson, which was the first season of FX crime anthology series American Crime Story in 2016 about the O.J. Simpson murder trial.
Are you for real?
That's the next level meta right there.
That is so awesome.
What?
Yep.
I love it.
Last but not least today, this is one of 3 1988 comedies that features a scene in which a villain is run over by a steamroller. The others are A Fish Called Wanda, and, of course, the classic Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
That's where I get my taste from women. For women. 100%.
Jessica Rabbit.
Oh, God, yes.
If they don't have a hip that can't support their top, then they're just not worth it.
On.
I'm not bad.
Preach.
I'm just drawn that way. Mm-hmm.
Hey.
But anyway, we have initial thoughts about this
Absolutely.
comedy movie.
As always, we'll let the guests
Other
go
stuff.
first. Chaz, what are your initial thoughts going to this one? I know this is one you're also very, very familiar with.
Yeah, so I mean, kind of like the other movies that we've watched, the other Zucker movies. I really had a good time with this movie. I watched it at a young age. I watched it with my dad growing up. Him and I had a lot of really good times. We would, reference the movie constantly. We still do. Anytime somebody mentions a beaver, we look at each other and we're like, yep, just like anytime anybody says, surely you can't be serious, I mean, it's there's that connection that came with this movie. So I really like the movie. I think that it did a really good job doing. I think that it took the spoof genre as what it was and kind of did its own little thing to it. I think Leslie Nielsen really took it by storm, and the way he acts, because he's so serious the whole time, and like you wouldn't think watching the movie, unless you know what you're watching, of course, but that this was a comedy movie, because the dude is so serious the whole time. He's not cracking a smile. He's not making jokes. He's not cracking wise.
Which is
It's
why
literally,
I really love what he's doing, yeah.
Yeah, he is the perfect person for the role, and he executes it amazingly. So, I mean, I love the movie. Yeah, I just have so many good memories tied to it.
I'll jump in next. I actually like this better than our other Zucker production we watched. I think the jokes are really well paced. I think that there's a more focus on what's happening versus cutting away to longer gags that don't always work. Again, I don't think it's perfect, but I do think that this brings me to a level of like golden era Simpsons, like just nonstop joke after joke after joke, rapid fire that all just build up on one another. I think it's really good.
Yeah, well, I am on the same boat as you. Again, this was my first time watching this, and I think I definitely can see that the comedic skill of the writers has grown since Airplane. The jokes are much better paced. They're really layered on very well. The gags are there, but they don't run on super duper long. They just hit for maximum effect, and then we're on to the next gag. Then boom, on to the next gag. Boom, boom, boom. So it keeps the pace going really well. It keeps everything moving along, and you're constantly laughing so fucking hard. You're only stopping to catch a breath, and then you get the next gag, and you lose it again. So I really, really, really like this one, and I can't wait to talk to you guys about it.
I'm very excited for this one. It's going to be fun. Again, a little tough to write synopsis for this one. I might have got a little off script when I did this, but we'll see how it turns out.
Oh, boy.
Uh-oh.
Just wait, guys. There'll be a point where you'll be like, what the fuck is he talking about? And I'm looking forward to that moment, that reaction. Here we go. Frank returns from breaking up a meeting of the Anti-American Stereotype Club to find his partner, convicted murderer O.J. Simpson, has been nearly killed on the job. The incident took place on a boat by one rich guy who is clearly the bad guy. Frank interrogates the man, but doesn't get far even after killing his expensive fish Pokemon. He leaves after flirting with the secretary, kind of, and the rich guy tells the secretary to pry on him and see what the police know about his company. The rich guy, Ludwig, creates some kind of mind control 5G device that can turn anyone into an assassin at his command. Of course, you well know that these 5G signals can cause illness, and the government is currently using COVID-19 as an excuse to get inside your head and control you with the intention of creating a vaccine for COVID that will make you immune to the 5G, but you also make you obedient to the government. Wait. How did all this conspiracy nonsense get in the script? Fuck this nonsense.
No.
Ludwig's plan is to assassinate the Queen of England, who is visiting LA for some reason. God forbid you assassinate a figure with actual political power. Not that we can legally say you should, kill the President of the United States of America, because that's totally illegal, except when you're trying to tell people that they shouldn't say, go kill the President of the United States of America, for the purposes of explaining how illegal it is. Wait, where was I? Right, assassinations. The secretary visits Frank. They fall in love. Frank then visits Ludwig's office on fire while trying to investigate it. He tries to save the queen, but gets her in a compromising position. He is losing his position as well at the office when the secretary reveals the entire plan Ludwig had. The police squad back him up, and they go to the ball game, where if they don't win, it will be a shame. After various disguises, they get too close to Ludwig. Let me back up. After various disguises to get close to Ludwig, Ludwig sets off his assassination plan to kill the queen. Frank stops it, and chase happens. Frank knocks Ludwig out a window, and Ludwig is flattened by a steamroller. The mind control device is hit once more in the victim, and he gets the victim, the secretary. But Frank proves the powers of boners is stronger and manages to break her free of the mind control device. Happy ending for all except for Frank's partner, who is accidentally pushed off the upper deck of the stadium.
Oh my god.
That's the best one I've heard.
That guy,
Hands down.
That went to some places.
Best synopsis I have personally ever heard. Wow, that went just about everywhere.
Shit, I was losing my breath, man. I was trying not to fuck up 3.
I was trying not to lose my breath either, man. I was just trying to keep it rolling. Got to keep that pace moving.
Find his partner, convicted murderer O.J. Simpson.
Help.
Oh my gosh, dude! The fact that O.J. was in this movie.
That threw me for a loop for a minute there. I didn't realize he was an actor at all.
He was in a couple of movies. He was in there was the fire movie that he was in. I can't remember what it was called. There was like a hotel that was on fire.
I couldn't remember off the top of my head, but
Burning Inferno, or Blazing Inferno?
Oh, maybe. I just remember he was in a movie about that had a fire, and he's a terrible actor.
Hang on. I know how we solve this. Hey, Google. What is the movie O.J. Simpson was in with fire?
The Towering Inferno.
There we go.
According to IMDb, The Towering Inferno.
Yep, there we go. Towering Inferno.
There it is.
Thanks, Google.
1974.
Yeah. Man, I kind of forget how old O.J. Simpson is, and then when you tell me he's in a movie in 1974, I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah. Wow.
So
He's
yeah.
a terrible actor.
I mean, is he any worse than Shaquille O'Neal?
Shaq has fun with it, though.
Yeah,
Dude,
Shaq.
did you see Steel?
Shaq has fun with it. I didn't say he was good. I said he has fun with it.
To be fair, he did not say he was good. That's a very fair point.
I'm looking forward to LeBron James's take on in Space Jam 2. I want to see if he can live up to Michael Jordan's.
Are they actually doing that still?
It's slated for release, man.
Oh, Billy.
It will be on our podcast. We did the first one. We will do the second one.
Oh, Billy.
Ryan, blame Nicole. You know she's going to push for it.
Look, man, if it doesn't have Bill Murray in it, what the fuck are we doing?
I mean, what if it has Kevin
Is he
Hart
not
in it?
in it?
I mean, I'm going to be very uninterested in the remake if they don't have my man Bill Murray in there. But
Ryan, what if they have like Kevin Hart in there or something?
No.
No, it's Bill Murray.
What about Jack Black?
Fuck with my childhood.
I'm trying to think of other.
Jack Black. Jack Black could do it.
I'm trying to think of other more younger comedians who could jump in. I'm trying to think of them all, but I don't know enough of them off the top of my head.
Well, we do have a discussion for this movie.
We do, but I'm trying to think of young comedians now. I'm so distracted. Okay. So, going back to my anti-American stereotype club, how well did the opening sequence age for this movie? And how on point was it, considering that this happened before 9/11 and the Russian collusion of 2016's election?
Dude, on point.
It's so
the
on the
whole
nose.
thing.
It's so on the nose.
And like looking back and watching it now, you're just like, oh, yeah, okay,
That was a thing.
yeah, all right, man. Because hindsight, I don't know, man. If it's just like with the Simpsons, how they always predicted the future and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Felt the same way.
we must commit heinous acts of terrorism because they left us out of the peace talks. I'm like, bruh, really? Really?
Yup.
Yeah, that's little on the nose, little straight in there, man. It was. I saw that, I was laughing and also kind of like sad at the same time. It was just like, yeah, whew.
Yup.
Especially like when this one dude like tears through the place, is just like, who are you? I'm a police lieutenant. So I'm like, wait, what?
I'm a
He's
police.
not even like a secret agent or anything. It's just like, Police Lieutenant Frank Trevor.
Like if it
Don't ever let me catch you in America.
Like, if it had been Archer or Austin Powers, I could have believed it, but just him, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, what the fuck?
Just
some dude.
random police lieutenant that was on vacation. I'm like, what?
Could you imagine, like, a New York police officer doing that?
I mean,
Oh.
no.
Yeah, no, you couldn't.
A modern-day one? Probably not.
True.
We talked about OJ and his acting role. So, have either of you guys actually seen the original Police Squad show?
No, I have not.
I have seen 1 or 2 episodes, but no, not enough to know.
Well, of those 2 episodes, do you remember it being any good at all, or anything like that?
I remember it being funny. I remember it being very slapsticky, just like this, but a little bit slower because it was a show, not a movie.
Fair enough.
You know.
Fair enough.
But I remember it being funny. I remember my dad really liked it, and that's why he really liked Naked Gun.
I've always been interested in the shows that movies are based on, just because I'm always curious, like, where it came from and, like, exactly, like how it evolved from one to the other. Which, you know, we would have gotten into a bit more with our TV adaptation season if that had not had to be pushed back. But, you know, it is what it is. So, going off that, why is the concept of an inept police force so, like, inherently funny? And I'm thinking of examples like Naked Gun, The Simpsons Cops, or even Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Well, I mean, Brooklyn Nine-Nine's police force is actually good. Like, they're funny, but they're also competent detectives.
Fair enough.
I think the reason it's so funny is because in society, as just all the time, they are the not necessarily the authority, but they are a pillar of the community, and they're there to protect and serve and all this stuff, you know, theoretically, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, moving on from that, they are meant to be, quotes, better than the average citizen, not necessarily morally or anything like that, but like they need to do their job. So I think when they are horribly inept and like bumbling fools, I think that's why it's so funny, is because when you picture a police officer, you either picture the police officer from The Simpsons.
I
right?
do. Yep, every time.
Big fat dude eating a donut that's just like, whatever, I don't really care, just don't kill anybody. Or you picture like super cop like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, right? And there's not really an in-between. So
Well,
I think that when
I was gonna say, then there's a third faction that's more true to real life, which is the racist cop, but we'll get into that later.
well, you know, I mean, there was some of that in this movie too, you know what I'm saying?
Fair.
But yeah, I mean, I definitely think that might be why that it's so funny. Is just because when you see a cop, like the funniest videos I see of cops are when they're in like a classroom doing a demonstration, they shoot themselves in the foot. Like literally shoot themselves in the foot. Like when they do something so stupid, you know, that obviously that doesn't hurt somebody else or harm anybody else, of course. But when they just are stupid people, it's just funny.
Yeah, I agree. I think also, like, there's especially back in that day and age, there was a lot of, I don't want to use the term propaganda, but there was a lot of media out there, like, really hyping up the idea of the police being these, like, these moral civic guardians that are protecting the everyday people from the horrors of crime and drugs and protecting our streets, protecting our homes and whatnot. And so seeing movies like after so many of these like action hero movies and dramas making heroes out of these cops, which to be fair, there are a lot of good men and women on the force. I am not going to take away from that at all.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
There was a lot of playing up of that position of that role in society, and so seeing movies kind of take the piss out of them and just like kind of poke fun at them, like, oh, these are the grizzled men and women of police squad. They'll solve any crime. Da, 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 da. And Leslie Nielsen's wearing a fucking microphone while he's taking a piss in the bathroom.
Yep.
That's just.
Yep.
That's Police Squad. So the dichotomy of what we expect to see when we see police stories from the 80s and this, the distance in between is what makes it funny for me, at least.
Fair play. To add to that too, as typical with any kind of comical or comedy satire or anything like that, I think what also it adds to it is it's a punch up. It's you're like Chaz said earlier, you're making jokes of an authority figure, and you're taking digs at someone who's in a position of power. So it's easier to make those jokes at their expense because they're in that upper position. They have that level of I guess humility and hubris. You can poke fun at a little bit. Whereas if you were to make a joke of someone below you, it comes off as a bit mean-spirited and not nearly as funny. Whereas making jokes of them, that's fair game. They have so much more going for them. You can jab them a little bit, and they should be able to take it pretty easily.
Yeah, I like that.
And no, I will not use that generic answer for the future when we have other questions similar to that. It's just you guys covered it so well. I figured I just added it in there for funsies. Next question I have, and this is gonna maybe take a minute because I have some stories behind this one. What is the world's fascination with the British royal family? Are you guys into it at all? Why or why? I don't know. I just don't get it.
I don't know if it's necessarily the world's fascination so much as it's America's fascination.
That's more the question, honestly, because I don't understand why we as Americans are so fascinated by the British royal family.
Because it's different.
Yeah, I think that's it. Honestly, I think he's got it.
But I was taught that we hated things that were different. That's why racism exists.
See, it's not necessarily that we hate things that are different because I don't know, man. I think it's because we came from them, so we were like, yeah, freedom. We don't have a king or queen or anything, but it's still interesting. And I mean, who doesn't want to? Who wouldn't want to be a duke or a duchess or a knight or a this or a that? I mean, it's just cool. It's just cool, man. That's all.
Yeah, I think it's so removed from what we have as a setup. It's just interesting. Also, there's no inherent fear of something that's different taking away resources from us, which is inherently what drives all ignorance and bigotry, I've found.
Fair.
Just this fear that you're going to lose, or you're not going to be able to put food on the table for your family because these other people that don't look like you get it. So since they're fucking a continent away, it's just it's fine. That's weird. They have a queen. She's a little old lady. That's interesting. And they can be a source of entertainment for them, I guess.
Ryan, are these people that are different from me? Are you talking about the dinosaur people we were talking about earlier?
Yes, they are going to take all of our food and all of our jobs, and I am campaigning against dinosaur people.
Yes.
See, Ryan, I for one accept our new dinosaur overlords.
To be honest with you, it wouldn't be. I mean, what would really change if we had a dinosaur for president? I mean, we currently have.
I love doing this show.
We currently have an orange orangutan. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe
I mean, in all honesty, all of the upper echelon are just, lizard people anyway. So, I mean, what's going to change?
I mean, we might get more tropical climates because they might push for more, global warming.
They would, yeah. Oh God.
Maybe that's why climate change is a hoax. You know what I'm saying?
They're building it to get the dinosaurs back.
We're speeding up the cooking of the planet for our dinosaur overlords.
Exactly. You know
They're
what?
doing a slow terraforming of the planet. I'm seeing it all, man. I'm seeing the conspiracies. I'm seeing them.
I like we've gone from 5Gs to
it.
dinosaur people.
Yep.
Wait, what? What?
That's part of the synopsis. You gotta keep up.
I'm with you. Took me a second.
But now going back to this royal family thing real quick before I get too far off a tangent. So, it's a discussion my wife and I've had a few times. She's like super into the royal family a bit. Like she watches The Crown. She follows all the news regarding the prince and the what's the lady's name? Merkel, Meghan Merkel, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, see, see, the only reason I know the name is because
Duke Harry's wife.
Yep.
Is American wife, yes.
Yep. The only reason I know her name is because I've heard it so many times. I'm like, I have no reason to understand this at all. I've just never had a fascination for it. I think my logic is just, oh hey, they're just rich people who do whatever they want in the UK. Not my thing. To me, they remind me of the Kardashians a little bit. They're just like people who have no real authority, but everyone seems to want to pay attention to them for whatever reason.
Damn.
I could see that.
That's hard,
I could...
man.
But am I wrong though, Ryan?
I mean, the British royal family ideally do things for humanitarianism and shit. Also, they do act as public figures, at least trying to do some good for their country.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I have to look into it more, but I like I said, the fascination for me has never been there, and it's always kind of not weirded me out, but just kind of it's interested me that people are so into it, and I've just always been kind of curious about it.
I mean, there is a fair amount of celebrity attached to it. It's a different form of celebrity. I think they're a little more kind-hearted than the Kardashians, but I mean, aside from that, yes, I don't think there's a whole bunch of they have various foundations and whatnot set up, and I think they have they have a voice in the political arenas of the UK. I have absolutely no idea how it works, but I would assume, since they all pay homage to the Queen, that she would have, or her family, the royal family, would have some sway in matters of state. But I think that would also be dealt with by the Prime Minister and whatnot. Still, I think my point still stands. I think it's just different enough and non-threatening enough that it's interesting.
I was going to say, because, I mean, X-Men are different, but everyone hates them. But I guess you're right, they're threatening.
They're threatening.
They have claws, they have lasers. I mean, that makes sense.
They can blow up the planet, Aaron, okay?
Not all
granted, the Queen does have the launch codes, so...
Fair.
Just saying.
God, I'm just looking forward to the day when she's, just looking at America you know what? I've had enough of their bullshit. I'm just going to hit the button.
Hey, they tried that back in 1776 and again in 1812, and you know what happened? America.
To be fair, though, I don't think they have buttons back then.
That's fair. Well, they had, coat buttons.
Sure, but I mean, red buttons to launch things.
To do the launch codes.
The question is...
No,
never mind. I'm not going to get to that one. I don't want to talk about how dangerous it is with the man who's currently got his fingers on the button.
Oh, God. Yeah, no, let's get back to our comedy, please. This is supposed to be our break from serious, boys.
I don't know, man. Richard Nixon or Donald Trump? I don't know.
I mean, Richard Nixon ended the Vietnam War, didn't he? That's something.
The only well, no, I don't think he ended it. The only reason I think he ended it was because he said he was going to push the button, and he would have. That was the scary part.
Fair play.
And then he started the Cold War, so...
Now, the Cold War started before him. That was, not Truman. I mean, it started around Truman, but I think it was, shortly after him, though. So I
Was it
know
Eisenhower that started the Cold War then? Maybe I'm crazy.
maybe because I know he was around during Kennedy's time too. So
Yeah. Anyway,
Anyway.
out of the political spectrum and back to comedy.
yeah. So I guess here's a question for you. And again, this kind of is another one of those like it's probably a random joke that didn't quite land for me, but or maybe it was something else. But what was up with that finger in Little Wig's hot dog?
Oh, so remember he had the shootout with the hitman at that processing plant?
Oh,
And he fell into the vat? That was
oh.
Yeah.
You know, now that you mention it, now it all connects back together. I just didn't connect those dots right away. Like I was just sitting here, like, why the fuck is there a finger in this thing? What the hell's going on here?
the guy.
I'm glad someone explained to me. Cause now I feel dumb that I missed that.
You're not.
That's all right. We all miss things.
Yeah, we all miss things, Mr. Autopilot over there.
Yep, I'm not gonna throw stones. I surely missed that shit.
But I want to throw
Oh,
stones.
boy.
A good old rock fight's what I need right now.
Good old rock fight. Jeez Louise.
So the questions on this one actually went by really quick. So let's get to these last couple here, I guess. What joke stuck with you the most? And again, which joke or jokes didn't quite work for you?
Okay, I went first last time. Chaz, do you have any that like really stick out for you?
I'm gonna need to think.
Do you want me to go first? Because I do have mine.
Okay.
Yeah, if you have yours, go ahead, man.
All right, so I've got two. I've got the interrogation scene, or like the early interrogation scene where he's at the pier and he's like, "So do you know this guy? Fucking what was his name? His partner is like, do you know this guy?" He's like, I don't think I know. He's like he hands him a 20. What about now? My memory is still a little foggy. What about now? And then he starts telling them, and he says, "Why? Why are you investigating?" He says, "I don't think I should tell you." He hands him the 20 back. What about
Yup.
now? I'm still not sure. What about now? Well, I'm investigating. Da 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 da. What about now? Huh? Like. I'm still not clear. Can you spot me a 20? Sure. He hands it right back to him. What about now? Maybe. So that was good. I loved that one. And my other favorite gag was the student driver car chase.
Yep.
That was good.
That's pretty solid.
Perfect.
I think my favorite one would have been really all of the scenes where OJ got like beat up and hurt because it was like I really like continuous gags, right? Where when it starts off and it just escalates and by the end of the movie the dude falls off of a stadium roof, you know? I mean, just keeps getting hurt over and over again. Every time he starts to begin getting conscious, he gets like beat up even more. And I really, really, really liked the the scene where they're wearing where she's like, "Do you have protection?" And they put on like
Oh
the
my
full
God.
bodysuit condom.
That was
dude.
pretty funny. Yeah.
Killed me. Absolutely hollering, slayed me to the bone.
Oh man, that was good.
Wasn't expected when it came
Going
out.
back to the OJ one though, like I think the first iteration of it was the best for me personally because he starts out getting shot 6 times.
Yup.
And then he like stubs his toe, and then he like
Yup.
falls face first in the cake, and then he bumps into a wet paint sign. He's like, "Oh no!" And I'm like, "What do you mean? Oh no!"
You've been shot.
It's like all this horrible shit is happening to him, and he still had the energy to react to like, "Oh no, there's paint on my jacket. Oh no!"
Yup.
Yeah, glorious.
I think the one there's a couple that stick out for me. I think the number one was shit. I had it a second ago. I know my runner up was the sequence where you see the secretary and Frank just like kind of running around it with the music montage, everything. Like it just
Oh, that was good.
it's silly, but I like it when like they treat a romance as silly. Like to me that works really well. And
Yes.
then and I liked the part where number one. The number one part, of course, for me though was the sequence where he's trying to break into Ludwig's office and get information. He ends up burning the place down.
Oh my god.
Like
Just went from bad to worse.
yeah,
Yup.
and then grabbing some titties down the way.
Oh, yup.
Like, that whole sequence is just fun.
The fucking stone dildo that twists up. I'm like, what the hell is going on,
Oh,
guys?
it's so good.
And then they pan up, and the statue is smiling. I couldn't. I was dead. I was just dead.
Yes, he's like jacking off the statue. So good.
And
Oh,
then, quote-unquote, final question before we open the floor to anything I may have missed. Could a film like this be made today, and then why or why not?
ooh, that's a big ask. No.
And why is that?
And
Yeah, I agree.
the main reason I say no is because A, Leslie Nielsen's dead.
Fair enough.
And I can't think of anybody who could do that role justice.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like I said in the beginning, like I mean, you have to be completely serious with it the entire time. Like you can't crack a joke, you can't smile. I mean, and it's got to be believable. And Leslie Nielsen does such a beautiful job of making you feel like he actually thinks he's a good cop. You know, so I don't. And plus, with some of the jokes that they made, I mean, some of the things that they said, it'd be really hard in the culture that the world is in now. I think people would get a little bit uptight about it, maybe, but I'm not sure if that would be. I'm not sure if that would be the case, though. That's difficult to tell.
Ryan, what do you think?
I agree for similar reasons to Chaz. Also, I just think the nature of comedy today has changed. We talked about that a little bit in Airplane about how you don't really see movies made like this anymore. And the spoof movies that we had like coming up, like when we were, alive, like the scary movies and whatnot, those just constantly tried to one-up each other to the point where it just got ridiculous. So it would have to kind of get back to like a simple level, but it would also just kind of have to have that seriousness and just the kind of simplicity of the spoof itself and just total commitment to the bit to actually make it work. And I don't know if it would translate well to this day and age. So yeah, I think comedy is going to keep evolving, and there's going to be more funny movies that come out, and it's going to be great. I think this is something we don't need to try and recreate. We can just leave it in its in posterity and just let it be for all time.
But so my question is like, you found this movie funny, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Okay, and so did you, Aaron. Like we all found this movie funny. So my question is why is comedy so different now, even though we still find that kind of comedy funny?
So I think the best way to explain it, or at least in my mind, is I'm going back to something I remember hearing from Jerry Seinfeld, where he says he refuses to go to any college campuses to do any kind of speeches or anything. And the reason is because so many people find his humor, to be distasteful and or I guess the correct term is politically correct, and so they just don't want to hear it, they don't want to listen to him, and he doesn't want to have to deal with their backlash, basically. I think that's part of it. I think there's just enough people out there who want humor to be a certain way without realizing that by having this sort of uniform rule of political correctness to it, you kind of limit what certain people can get away with, and thus you kind of limit what jokes are available for them in the tool belt, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Also, current I think comedy is changing because current performers are changing. I mean, the comics of today are different from the comics of the 80s, and they surely learned from them, and they surely adapted some of their mannerisms, but they're very much different people. So the brand of comedy and the style of quality, the style of comedy that we're getting now is going to be different from what it was back in those days. I think that's just a natural progression of the art itself. So, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because there's some comedy like this that can be timeless, that can be just purely funny, and you can watch it 30 years later and it's still purely funny.
That's
So
true.
I don't think you necessarily have to try and recreate it, because if you tried to recreate a similar feeling of a 1988 movie in 2020, something is going to be lost, because
Yeah,
you've
it's not
had
gonna work
30
too good,
years of referential changes and societal changes that's going to change how the movie is made and how the movie is perceived.
Well, and another way to
Yeah.
put it too, Chaz, you're talking to two guys here, and Ryan, I might be speaking out of turn, so if I'm a little off, let me know. But you're talking to two guys here who grew up with stuff like Simpsons, like Futurama, like all this stuff that borrows elements of humor from stuff like Naked Gun, like Airplane, like all these older comedies. Like the writers of then informed the writers of that, which informed us, and here we are today. I think
Yeah, that's fair.
and so that's why it works for us so well. But say someone who's like 18 to 20 right now, they didn't grow up with some of that stuff, and so they might be thinking this stuff is old and it is not at all what I value or care about. Like stuff back then made fun of homosexuals, made fun of transsexuals, made fun of various stereotypes I'm not going to get into. People nowadays of that age, they just don't want to put up with it, and I'm not going to blame them. Some of that stuff, yeah, probably shouldn't be in there, but it was, and it worked back in the day.
I think, and you know what actually kind of surprised me is that there wasn't a whole lot of that in this movie, or in the other, or in Airplane when we watched that movie. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of. I mean, there was a few remarks, of course, but I mean, I was actually very
Nothing overt or in your
pleasantly
face.
surprised. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
very pleasantly surprised when I recently rewatched both these movies that they weren't so transphobic or homophobic or whatever what have you. Like they just, I don't know. I mean, granted, I don't have those issues or whatever you want to call them.
Right.
So I'm not necessarily looking for those things or experience those things on a daily basis, but I definitely was just, I was very impressed that they still had such a good comedic showing without those kind of jokes. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I definitely think that this movie cannot be made again. I
Yeah.
definitely
Right.
do.
Just going back to what you were saying though about like the lack of like non-PC humor in this movie in particular, I think it goes to really the development of the writing team, because you had more of that type of stuff in Airplane. It wasn't like bad, but you definitely had more of those kinds of jokes played for laughs in Airplane. And then 8 years later, you find that it's been largely removed. There's still a joke or two there, but I mean, I think the writers personally felt the need to start moving away from that, and so they did more comedy that just was generally enjoyed by everybody that could watch it. So I think that also just speaks to their growth as well.
Which is huge because, I mean, think about, like, I mean, the movie was made in, what, like 1988, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about all of the things that have changed in our society since 1988. I mean, and
32
they
years.
not necessarily saw the change in comedy coming, so that they got away from a lot of those jokes and from that humor. But, I mean, it definitely, both movies, I definitely would say, for the time period, were very respectful of whatever your decision was for sexual orientation and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that's a good sign of writing for a comedy show or movie or what have you, is that it has an ageless quality to it. Some things just cannot age well because they are so set in a very particular mindset from back then. And you have stuff like this. You have the golden episodes of Simpsons or Futurama or anything else we could talk about comedy-wise. I always reference those because those are the first two that come to my mind. But some of them just do a really good job of avoiding that stuff, and they can go on for years as being just rewatchable time and time again.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It also it doesn't help that I've also rewatched Futurama recently, so.
Same. I'm rewatching it right now.
I love that we keep doing these deep dives into what comedy is. I love this. This is good shit.
It's very different from our usual format, but I like it.
It's and again, like Aaron, like you said earlier, comedy's very subjective. Like, it's not like what you find funny, Ryan might not find funny. What I find funny, y'all might not find funny. But there are some things that, at least for this movie, that we all found funny. So I think that does also go back to the brilliance of the writers for this movie. Just like three people who are different. I mean, we're not the same person, I don't think, anyway. But three people found three different, that we found this movie to be funny.
Ryan, don't tell him about the hive mind.
Which is, yeah, it's the hive mind. No. But like, we all found something in this movie that we liked or that we appreciated and stuff like that. So I think that that's also pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Well, with that, is there anything else you wanted to bring up before we move on to the last bit of the show?
No, I mean, I really enjoyed this movie. This was a very smart and richly made movie. So I would love to see the other two movies in this series.
They are hilarious. The third one, you could definitely tell by the third one that they were not necessarily running out of ideas, but they were a little bit low.
I was gonna say, I heard OJ won a Razzie for the third one.
Oh god.
Yeah, the third one's not great.
Incidentally, he was also going to jail around that time.
Yes, so it worked out.
Well, if you want to send us your favorite jokes, or if you want to tell us why you think we should continue on with more Naked Gun movies, you could hit us up on Tumblr, Twitter, or Facebook. You could also email us at our email. Ryan, what could the email say at?
That email is, I must kill AJ Seska. I must...
Ryan, step out of it.
Excuse me. Sorry, that's evacstation@gmail.com.
Had me worried there for a minute.
I have tinfoil on to protect from the 5G rays. Don't worry.
Good.
There you go, wise man.
Fucking 5G bullshit. And of course, you can also follow us on Patreon. Exclusive episodes and content there for you. We have some fun bonus episodes, including the pre-roll show, which talks about all sorts of stuff, not just movies, and it can get kind of weird sometimes. There was an episode where we talked about Jared Leto sucking things off to become Morbius.
Wait, excuse me?
I remember that. Oh no.
That was a great episode. I love that one.
Excuse me?
Yeah, so Jared Leto is going to be Morbius in the next Spider-Man spin-off movie. And Nicole and I got into a tangent about how, because he's a method actor, he has to suck things off to get the feel for being a vampire.
Oh. I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
Whatever floats your boat, man.
Listen.
I have to hear more on that. You guys will have to subscribe to the Patreon.
Yeah,
to hear all that goofy shit.
It is one of the better pre-roll episodes. Not that we had any bad ones, but that is one of the better ones. So, for those who are still with us today, let's go ahead and do a final thoughts where we rank the movie from platinum to trash and all the colors in between. Gentlemen, what are we going to rank this movie at?
Well, because of its timeless quality, the fact that so many of the jokes were so well paced and well written, and it was able to survive. Like the majority of the movie is something that I was laughing throughout the entirety of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this a gold. This is definitely a comedic gem. You should definitely give it a shot. If you've never seen it before, it will surprise you so well, and it'll give you just enough of a break to get you to catch your breath before you start laughing uncontrollably again.
All right. I think I agree with Ryan on a lot of those notes. I also give it a gold. Again, I have those. I also have rose tinted glasses with it. I mean, this is your guys' first time seeing it. It's my seen this movie a lot. Just put it that way.
Lost count.
Not as much as Airplane, but I've seen this movie a lot. And I just, whenever I watch the movie, it gives me really good memories, really good feelings on the inside, And so I like Ryan said, if you haven't seen the movie, I highly, highly recommend it. It's beautifully done. There won't be a movie like it ever again, in my opinion. And I think,
What about Naked
like we
Gun
said
2?
Listen, Bucko, you can't beat the first one. Naked Gun 2 is good, but Naked Gun 1 is, man, it's amazing. It's beautiful. And with Leslie, especially with Leslie Nielsen gone, I definitely would recommend just going through his entire filmology and just going through everything, or whatever you call just watch all of the Leslie Nielsen's comedy movies, because they're all amazing.
Mm-hmm. I will wrap things up by saying that we're going to make this a hat trick, and it's going to be 3 gold all over the place. I really had fun with this one. Had fun with this one, and definitely looking into maybe check out the other ones here soon. But before we do that, of course, we have other movies to check out, because I know next week is going to be one I'm very familiar with and really looking forward to. Next week, gentlemen, is going to be Young Frankenstein.
Hey, I haven't seen that in a good long while.
I've been holding off Mel Brooks for this series for a while. I was going to try to do them all at once, but honestly, if we're going to do some spoof movies, you got to at least do one. You got to at least do one of them. So
I think Young Frankenstein's a good Mel Brooks movie to put in this season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of these days we'll cover the rest of them, because there's a lot of good ones, and if you were a fan of Mel Brooks, there's at least one of them that you will hold up as the best, and none of us can agree on which one that is. So,
well, you two agree.
Well, fair enough. Fair enough. So thank you for listening, and tune in next week for that. And then after that, I think we have the Christopher Nolan series, where we be going over all of the Christopher Nolan movies except for the Dark Knight trilogy. That's going to be something separate for Batman stuff. So, yeah.
Back to serious, boys. Back to serious film critique, boys.
And of course, we hit the ball running with fucking Christopher Nolan, too, no less.
Yes.
There you go.
But thank you for listening, and we'll see you after the credits.
Bye.
Bye.
Something tells me I'm into something.